I never imagined being turned away by an airline would ignite a firestorm of change. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced as I stood at the check-in counter, the bright lights of the busy airport blinding me. A sharp voice cut through the noise. "You can't board," the attendant said, her gaze ice cold. I felt my chest tighten, a lump rising in my throat. My hands trembled as I clutched my tickets, disbelief washing over me like cold water. Behind me, a wave of travelers murmured. Their eyes flicked toward me, filled with a mix of pity and curiosity. The world moved on. Suitcases rolled by, and laughter echoed, but I was frozen in this moment of rejection. My dream trip to see my sister-me only family crumbled like a fragile sandcastle under relentless waves. I could still hear her excited voice from our last call. "It'll be so good to see you," Shed said, her laughter like a distant melody. But now, that sound felt like a mockery. I huffed out a shaky breath, trying to piece together what had gone wrong. I had all the right documents, the proper identification. Yet somehow, in this chaotic sea of humanity, I had become the unlucky one that I remember glimpses of my childhood with her, the birthday parties, the silly fights, and the moments where she always believed in me. If she could just see me now broken, desperate at the mercy of a system that didn't care. My heart raced as panic clawed at my insides. Just then, a sudden hush fell over the terminal. The lights flickered, and a tense murmur enveloped the crowd. A flight attendant rushed through the gates, her face pale, urgency radiating from her every movement. What was happening? My pulse quickened. The air felt electric, charged with anticipation. A man shouted from the other side of the terminal, "Someone's in trouble." Gasps erupted as people turned to look. My gaze darted, my breath quickening. Was it me? I was just a shattered traveler, nothing special. But in that moment, everything felt precarious, everything felt connected. That I swallowed hard as I decided to step closer, drawn to the center of chaos. Surely I wasn't the only one marked by fate today. A knot formed in my stomach. Suddenly, an old man caught my eye, his expression fierce yet sorrowful, as if burdened with knowledge meant only for a select few. I felt a tug, an unexplainable bond forged in simultaneous suffering. As I approached, the murmur intensified, revealing snippets of whispers. "It's about the flight," the report, "something's wrong." With every word, my heart pounded harder, each beat resonating like a drum calling me toward an unseen confrontation. The world around me blurred. Those handshakes, those slight nods, something whispered of a greater truth lurking just below the surface. What had I stumbled into? I could no longer see the check-in counter or the tiny screen with my cancelled flight. My focus was drawn to the old man, his eyes now fixed on me. A shiver raced down my spine. I reached the center of the commotion, heart racing, hands shaking, breath hitching. The ground felt unsteady beneath my feet. In a low voice, he said to me, "They lie." Eyes wide, I demanded, "What do you mean?" My chest heaved with urgency. Before he could reply, a loud crash echoed, the tense silence breaking. Suddenly the screen lit up with bold letters, "Attention passengers, immediate boarding change." The wild chaos erupted around me again. Panic or hope? I couldn't tell. Everything inside me twisted. Who was I supposed to trust? I stood on the precipice, heart in throat, utterly lost amidst the storm of confusion. And in that silence that followed the crash, the question loomed heavy: was this a new beginning or the end of everything I thought I knew? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Chaos surrounded me, a swirling tempest of emotions and uncertainty. My mind raced, caught between the frantic energy of the crowd and the haunting image of my sister's face smiling, expectant, unaware of the turmoil unfolding within me. I felt invisible, yet acutely aware of every fleeting moment of hesitation that lingered in the air. Suddenly, a young woman with tangled hair and an oversized sweater stumbled beside me. Her eyes were wide with fear, reflecting the same confusion that gripped my heart. "I don't know what's happening," she whispered, voice trembling. In a world that thrummed with a growing sense of panic, here was someone who understood the gravity of loss, even if we were strangers. "Our flight," I stammered, my voice breaking slightly as dread wove through my tone. She nodded, and in that small gesture, a flicker of solidarity ignited between us. We shared an unspoken bond wrought from fear, a shared vulnerability that drew me toward her. "Maybe we can figure it out together," she suggested, a tremor of hope bobbing amid the tidal wave of despair. I could feel my heart swell slightly. Articulating trust in this hectic atmosphere felt foreign yet necessary. "Yes," I replied, both relieved and terrified. "I want to know what's happening." With her hand firmly gripping my arm, we navigated through the confusion and noise. More announcements crackled over the speakers, mingling with restless murmurs. I caught snippets of conversations, words flung carelessly into the air: delayed, cancelled, evacuate. A sense of urgency enveloped us as we approached a small group huddled near a display, voices rising and falling like waves on a stormy sea. An elderly woman clutched her handbag tightly as she listened intently to a man shaking his head. "It's not just our flight. They're redirecting everyone. It's a system-wide issue. Rumors of something bigger." What was this something bigger? The hair on the back of my neck prickled as unease stirred deep within me. Silence had long abandoned this place, replaced by a constant churn of anxiety. The young woman squeezed my hand. "We can't just wait here, right?" she urged, her voice a steadying counterpoint to the chaos surrounding us. "There's got to be a solution." There was something calming about her determination, a spark of light amid the encroaching shadows that I took a deep breath, feeling emboldened by her presence. "Together," I replied, nodding slightly. We pressed on, determined to decipher the unfolding web of confusion. Just as we maneuvered toward the front desk, our eyes caught a glimpse of the old man again. He stood near the gates, fear etched on his weathered face, and I could feel the weight of his words from before, echoing ominously in my mind. A shiver coursed through me. Was he right? What were they hiding? Our anxieties twisted into a consuming urgency, pushing us closer to the precipice of discovery. Finally, we reached the front desk. I desperately looked to the airline attendant, whose weary expression hinted she was fighting back a storm of her own. "Excuse me. Can you please tell us what's happening with the flights?" I implored, my heart pounding. Before the attendant could answer, a loud commotion erupted behind us. A voice hollered an authoritative shout amidst the rising tide of chaos. "Everyone, please calm down. We are doing everything possible." A sense of dread washed over me. There was a fragility in her tone that suggested hidden truths. Across the chaos, I caught the old man's gaze once more. He had shifted, now making his way toward the exit. Something about him seemed calculated, purposeful. My heart beat faster, adrenaline coursing through my veins as I made an instinctual decision. "We need to follow him." "What?" the young woman said, alarmed. "Are you sure?" "He's just an old man." That it felt reckless but necessary, a hunger for answers ignited within me. "I don't know, but I feel we have to. As we hurried after him, the crowd shifted, unyielding chaos still swirling behind us. Each step I took resonated with a mixture of hope and fear, two fragile forces colliding in a tumultuous dance. What lay beyond the terminals? Would the outside world render a deeper understanding of our situation, or would it deepen the chasm that separated me from my sister? Suddenly, the old man whirled around, catching our eye again. "Are you two coming?" he asked, voice grave yet laced with an unexpected gentleness. At that moment, all the unanswered questions, the longing, and uncertainty hung thick like mist before us. I held my breath, caught between the promise of hope and the stark reality of our choices. I stepped forward, propelled by the urge to uncover the truth, unaware that this decision might lead us into the heart of something much darker and transformative than we could have ever imagined. Just as I took my first step, the ground trembled beneath us, an ominous harbinger of everything yet to unfold. The ground quaked again, more violently this time, making me stagger a step backward. The old man's eyes widened, and the urgency of his gaze pulled me closer once more. An electric tension threaded through the air around us, mixing with the cacophony of screams and the shrill notes of sirens approaching from outside. "What's happening?" the young woman gasped, her grip on my arm tightening. "We need to get out of here." She was right, I could feel it too. The facade of normalcy shattering around us, and whatever had been brewing beneath the surface was now unfurling into chaos. "Come on," I urged, turning toward the exit where the old man had gone. Just as we rushed forward, the debris of panic erupted behind us. A heavy object crashed against the floor, sending echoes of fear rippling through the crowd. The old man beckoned to us with an urgency that burned bright. "This way. Trust me." In that moment, something deep within me urged obedience. I didn't know him, yet he embodied a strange hope, a potential guide through the unknown darkness spilling forth around us. Together, we hurried through the flurrying bodies, adrenaline amplifying the urgency of our movement. Outside, the world took on a surreal quality. Clouds of dust kicked up from the pavement, mingled with the smell of burning rubber, pulling stark lines between us and the reality that was evolving underfoot. Sirens wailed, growing louder, filling the spaces left void by horror. The atmosphere was heavy with uncertainty, a palpable tension in the very air we breathed. "Where are we going?" I shouted above the tumult, my voice drowned momentarily by the roar of engines and panicked shouts. "To safety," the old man replied, his tone more insistent than reassuring. We moved toward a row of cars haphazardly parked along the edge of the terminal's drop-off area. Around us, the crowd surged not toward a safe haven but deeper into a burgeoning storm of spilled emotions and frayed nerves. In that chaos, a flicker of warmth caught my attention. Amidst desperate faces, I saw a little girl, clutching a stuffed bear, her small frame trembling. A man beside her knelt down, whispering sweet nothings, attempting to quell her fears. A moment of humanity amid turmoil. I locked eyes with the girl, and in that split second, the weight of my own fears felt a little lighter, as if reminding me we were all connected in our vulnerability. "Focus," the old man urged, snapping me back to our mission. "We need to keep moving." I broke away from the tender scene, chasing after the old man and the young woman, both my anchors in this storm. As we rounded the corner, I caught sight of a white sedan idling in the parking lot. The old man waved it down, and the car jolted toward us. The driver, a middle-aged woman with knowing eyes, nodded as we approached. "Get in." Once inside, the old man took the passenger seat while the young woman and I squeezed into the back. The atmosphere in the car was thick with unspoken tension, and I could feel the fear coursing through my veins, a direct response to the calamity unfolding outside. "Who are you?" I asked the old man, desperation creeping into my tone. "That I am just a man trying to save lives, including my own," he replied, his expression hardening. "Things are worse than you know." "This is only the beginning." "What do you mean?" the young woman interjected, her voice trembling. "What is happening?" He turned to face her, the weight of the world in his gaze. "This chaos isn't merely an accident or a malfunction. It's deliberate. They're turning us against each other, and if we don't band together, we won't survive. Not here, not anywhere." The implications of his words settled heavily within me, feeding a growing dread. "Survive? What do you mean?" I choked out, the reality of his statement worming its way into my mind. "It's time to either fight or fly," he declared, encouragement flickering with fervor in his voice. "You want to find your sister, don't you?" "Of course. But then we have to prepare for what's coming." His words silenced my objections. The gravity of his tone held truth, and understanding dawned. Outside, chaos continued to unfold. Sirens penetrated the once normal air, tipping it into something sinister, something I couldn't yet fully grasp but felt deep in my bones. As our car hurtled away from the scene, a vision of my sister flooded my mind, her smile a vivid contrast to the turmoil around us. I had to find her, she was my anchor. Then my world fractured again as I glanced back to the airport, catching a glimpse of a rising cloud of smoke thick and black like a harbinger of doom. My heart clutched painfully in my chest as realization hit me like the frigid wind that swept past us. The airport was not merely a gathering of strangers in transit, it was a battleground, and we had barely escaped its clutches. What's your name? I finally managed to ask the old man, the gravity of the moment requiring an introduction. Samuel, he replied, his gaze fixed ahead. But we don't have much time for pleasantries. As if on cue, a sudden explosion shook the earth beneath us, sending the car rattling forward. I instinctively reached for the young woman's hand, panic flooding my senses. The violence of the moment crashed into reality, and as the dust began to settle, it became clear whatever had begun this day would not end quietly. I had stepped into a storm that threatened to consume everything I held dear. And just as I began to grasp the impossibility of the road ahead, a chilling thought ripped through the pit of my stomach. If Samuel spoke the truth, who could I trust when dark forces were moving in shadow, and I couldn't even trust the destination looming ahead? The moment the explosion reverberated through the air, my heart sank into an abyss of dread. The world outside the car was an unraveling tapestry of chaos, uncertainty, and desperation. A kaleidoscope of shattered glass, flames, and smoke twisted in a grotesque dance, mocking whatever semblance of safety I had clung to moments before. Drive faster. I gasped, instinctively bracing myself against the seat as the driver floored the accelerator, her knuckles paling against the steering wheel. Samuel turned, a steel determination etched into his features. We need to find a place to regroup. The streets will be crawling with chaos soon. His eyes flicked toward the young woman beside me, urgency cloaking his words. What's your name? Emily, she said, her voice trembling, but a fierce spark ignited her gaze as she clutched my hand tighter. Where will we go? Anywhere but here, Samuel said, his voice steady despite the storm brewing both outside and within. We can't draw attention to ourselves. We have to find shelter and gather information. Contradictory emotions wrestled within me. Fear warred with a flicker of hope ignited by Samuel's presence. Did I trust him? I had no choice. His concern for our welfare emanated from a well of hard-earned wisdom, one illuminated by the faint knowledge that I desperately needed to find my sister. Back streets may be our best bet, the driver suggested, her voice laced with grit as sirens blared in concert with the chaos we left behind. Hop onto Clarendon. It'll take a bit longer, but it might help us avoid roadblocks. As we made the turn, the landscape morphed from corporate glass and steel to the jagged edges of an older neighborhood, remnants of past lives whispered from crumbling buildings and cracked pavement. Shadows loomed larger than life, swallowing every glimmer of reassurance and the silence that enveloped us. A memory flickered to the forefront of my mind, a simpler time when my sister and I would play hide and seek in the large oak tree outside our childhood home. Inevitably, every experience had become a thread in the tapestry of our lives, and now those threads felt perilously frayed. I squeezed Emily's hand, needing her strength as much as I felt the weight of my sister's absence. What if we don't find her? I murmured, nearly inaudible over the roar of the engine. The uncertainty carved a hollow in my stomach, a pit darkened by the fear of loss. We will, she promised, but her voice trembled, revealing her own vulnerability. We can't give up hope, or it'll consume us. We have to keep looking for each other. That's what matters. I nodded, trying to absorb her words, but they felt like fragile wisps that could easily dissipate into the swirling turmoil around us. The cacophony of sirens crescendoed in a haunting symphony, a reminder of the horrors lurking just beyond our windshield. Make a left here, Samuel directed, exuding authority despite the uncertainty cracking the surface of his composure. There's a community center a few blocks down. We can lay low for a while. As we arrived at a nondescript brick building, its faded letters barely visible through the grime, a spurt of hope flickered in my chest. Maybe this could be a refugee, a place to breathe, to regroup, and to gather whatever information we could about the dangers unfolding outside. But as we parked the car and ventured into the building's dimly lit entrance, bracing ourselves for the worst, a new and disturbing sight greeted us. Inside, a group of people huddled together, faces etched with fear and confusion. Children cried, and adults leaned in close, whispering urgent conversations. The air was thick with despair, and as we approached, every pair of eyes turned toward us, full of expectation mingled with desperation. One woman stepped forward, her arms crossed defensively. "Who are you? Are you part of what's happening out there?" she pressed, her voice sharp, cutting through the tension. "Just survivors, like you," Samuel replied, his voice authoritative. But I could see the flicker of doubt in the eyes of those watching us, as though they were trying to gauge whether we were here to help or to sow more chaos. "Please, we need to figure out what's going on," I implored, stepping forward. "I'm looking for my sister. We can't stay here in limbo when the world is falling apart." A man, disheveled and weary, broke through the crowd. "Your sister is missing. So is my brother. We can either sit here and wait for an explosion to swallow us whole, or we can take action together. There's a message spreading quickly among pockets of survivors," the woman said, her voice now softening slightly. "People have been disappearing, targeted for looking too closely into what's happening. We need to stay vigilant." With that revelation, my heart twisted painfully. Samuel had spoken of survival, but now it felt more poignant and personal. The stakes were growing higher than I had ever anticipated. Their faces mirrored my fear, and yet in that charged atmosphere was also a budding sense of purpose, a collective determination to stand against the tide of chaos. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside, shaking the very walls of the community center. As people shifted uneasily, Samuel turned towards the entrance. "We need to figure out our next move. We can't let fear paralyze us." But as those words hung heavy in the air, a chilling realization struck me. While we had come together with the hope of finding allies, uncertainty lingered like a specter at the edges of our resolve. Who was truly a friend, and who might be part of the shadowy darkness threatening to tear us apart? Before I could voice my concerns, the room fell silent as a sudden warning siren blared loudly, its mournful wail rising above the din. Instinctively, I looked at Samuel, dread pooling anew in my stomach. "We're not safe here," he said, urgency threading through his words. "We need to evacuate now. Whatever is coming, it's here." Just as I turned to grab Emila's hand, she froze, her eyes wide with fear, and then pointed toward the door. A figure stood outside, cloaked in shadow and wrapped in an air of menace. My blood ran cold as I recognized the darkened silhouette, a figure from my past I had never thought I would face again. "Why are they here?" I whispered, the words barely escaping my trembling lips. A shock of recognition shot through me like lightning, and in that moment, clarity settled in the chaos. Somehow, my sister's fate was bound to this figure, and I was about to step into a battle much deeper and more personal than I had ever imagined. The flickering lights of the community center cast long shadows as the feelings of dread washed over me, deeper than the chaos outside. The figure loomed, their outline both familiar and alien. It was Derek, the one person I had hoped to leave behind forever. His arrival sent sharp pangs of anxiety rippling through my body, drowning any vestiges of hope that had blossomed just moments before. "Derek?" My voice trembled, a mixture of disbelief and fear bubbling to the surface. The storm of emotions within me threatened to drown out the practicalities of our dire situation. "What are you doing here?" He stepped closer, the light catching the sharp angles of his face. "What a reunion this is," he said with a sardonic smile, though the glimmer in his eyes seemed to hold an unspoken warning. "It's been a long time, hasn't it?" Around me, whispers swept through the crowd like wildfire. They were all eyeing Derek with a blend of curiosity and suspicion, their expressions morphing from fear to something darker, as if they recognized his name from the shadows where secrets thrived. Is this a setup? The woman from earlier questioned, stepping protectively in front of the children. "You come here with your past like it means nothing, and now we're supposed to trust you. What else do you know?" Derek's gaze flickered towards the crowd, unreadable, and then settled back on me. "I know you're in over your head, and I know what's going on out there. You think you can just run and hide? They'll come for you." "Who?" I interrupted, desperation coating my words. Who will come for us? His expression hardened, and for a moment, I felt like a child cornered by a ghost from my past. The ones behind the disappearances. They're using fear to control everyone. They were always closer than you think. A chill ran through me. Derek had his flaws, but he had never been overtly deceptive. The tension between us was palpable, but considering the gravity of his words, I had no choice but to listen. Derek, I said slowly, my heart racing, I have to find my sister. What do you know? He hesitated, shifting on his feet as flashes of nostalgia painted memories of a time when we were allies not enemies. She might be involved in this too, he admitted, a trace of regret in his voice. I heard she's been digging into things she shouldn't. A surge of panic spiraled inward. No, she can't be. Not her, Derek. My words erupted in a frantic loudness, and I felt the eyes of the group turn to me, their own fear reflected in the glances exchanged around the room. That I don't want to see her hurt either, he said, the edges of his voice softening. But if you want to find her, we need to act fast. The longer we stay here, the worse it'll get. The realization struck me like an avalanche. The hope of finding my sister was counterbalanced by the terror of what her pursuit of truth might have unleashed. If we leave now, where do we even begin? Follow me, Derek said, motioning to the exit. The moment felt surreal. An unexpected alliance formed from shared urgency, yet shadowed by a history that left so much unspoken between us. Wait. Samuel interjected, stepping forward. If we leave this building unprepared, we could walk straight into the lion's den. Staying here guarantees we're trapped, Derek countered, his frustration bubbling to the surface. There are safe routes out of the city, especially if we split into smaller groups. Split? I echoed, caught off guard by the thought. How can we trust anyone in a situation like this? I swear, Derek said, meeting my gaze with an intensity that made my heart thump against my ribs. I'll do everything I can to help you find her. But right now, we're running out of time. Just then, the sirens outside grew louder, followed by the thundering sound of heavy footsteps approaching our location, reverberating against the concrete walls. The facade of calm disintegrated, fear taking hold like a storm threatening to unleash itself. Now. Samuel shouted, demanding action. We move now or stay to face whatever is coming. Emily took my hand, squeezing it as if grounding me back to the moment. In with you, she said, her voice steady, somehow providing a flicker of reassurance that ignited my resolve. Before I could respond, Derek moved toward the door, a sense of urgency guiding his steps. The moment felt like a decision leading us into the unknown, the weight of lingered past threats pushing me toward a future laden with uncertainty. I had no time to dwell on what I'd once lost in Derek, but I felt his shadow loom distinctively beside me. A part of this journey I never intended to carry again. Stick together, Samuel reminded us, his voice practically a lifeline that tethered my spiraling thoughts. Well, find ways past the barricades. As we surged into the alleyway, the world outside was an echo of chaos, but in the midst of the storm, exhaustion transformed into a fervor for survival. Each step we took filled the air with urgency, yet hope lay simmering below the surface as I clung to the small thread that linked me to my sister and to those who echoed my sentiments. But just as the dim light of the street began to illuminate our path, a chilling shout rang out behind us, and a figure stepped into view at the entrance of the Aliyah shadow with intent, calling my name. Rebecca. The voice cut through the chaos like a knife. My heartbeat faltered. It was a voice I never thought I would hear again, the one belonging to my sister, a sound that simultaneously filled me with hope and dread. How could she be so close, yet so far? The air around me thickened as hope collided with apprehension. I spun on my heels, my heart pounding wildly against my ribcage. Facing the mouth of the alley was a woman whose figure was blurred by shadows, but the soft contours of her face, lit by the flickering light from the street lamp, were unmistakable. It was my sister, Mia, Rebecca. She shouted again, urgency and fear lacing her voice. A mixture of elation and dread tugged at my heartstrings. We were so close, yet the specter of danger loomed large. I stepped forward instinctively, my breath catching in my throat. Mia, is that you? What are you doing here? My voice was a trembling whisper, drowned out by the cacophony of chaos surrounding us. The others pressed around me in a tight formation, bewildered by the sudden appearance of my sister. Listen. She called, her voice cracking slightly as she took a step into the alley, eyes darting between me and Derek, who was watching the scene unfold with a mixture of disbelief and concern. Mia. I shouted again, a blend of relief and fear buoying my words. You shouldn't be here. It's not safe, I know, she replied, breathless. But you have to come with me. I've uncovered something important. There was an intensity in her gaze, a fire sparking beneath the layers of her fear. If we don't act now, everything we care about will be gone. Just like the others. Her words pierced through me like ice. I could only imagine what horrors she had seen, what she had uncovered. I glanced back at Derek, whose face had turned pale. Did he truly care for my sister, or was it part of a manipulation I was too desperate to see clearly? What do you mean? I pressed, feeling a surge of protectiveness. What do you know? She shook her head, panic etched across her features. I can't explain everything here. We're being hunted, Rebecca. The same people behind the disappearance thief got their eyes on me. Please, come with me. The urgency in her tone made my resolve waver. No. Derek snapped suddenly, stepping between Mia and me, a wall of conflicted emotions rising from his presence. You don't know what you're getting into. They're after her too, Mia. We need to stick together, Samuel interjected. No risks unless we're prepared. His voice was firm, but I could see the uncertainty mingling in his eyes. Are you going to listen to him or do you want to find out what really happened to everyone? Mia shot back, her determination igniting a spark of rebellion within me. Calm down, I said, taking a deep breath to steady myself. What do you have? What have you found? The disappearance says there's a network, and it's bigger than we thought, she replied, urgency lending her words power. I found documents, names, addresses, dates. They're planning something vast, and our town is at the center of it all. I thought I could investigate, but now they know I'm on to them. We don't have time for this. Derek hissed, his frame tense, eyes locked onto the alley entrance where shadows loomed menacingly. We need to move now. We can figure it out later. No. Mia shouted back, her voice slicing through the air. You don't understand. We can't just run away without knowing what we're facing. If we separate, they'll pick us off one by one. The emotional battlefield between hope and fear teetered dangerously. With every heartbeat, I wrestled with conflicting loyalties. I loved Mia fiercely and wanted her safe, yet Derek's words echoed in my mind, staying could lead to disaster, but fleeing meant abandoning the truth we needed to uncover. Mia, if what you're saying is true, then let's gather what we can and figure out our next move, I proposed, focusing on finding a thread of control in an unraveling tapestry. But we have to act now, and there's strength in numbers. She hesitated, glancing between Derek, Samuel, and Emily, who had cautiously shifted toward her, their expressions layered with concern and determination. She seemed to gather her thoughts, her gaze sharpening, as if she was weighing the gravity of the moment. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from the entrance of the alley. A shadow advanced into our field of vision, encased in a menacing silhouette. A flash of metal gleamed as a figure stepped out, dressed in dark clothing adorned with patches I recognized ashamedly, from news reports about the very organization Mia mentioned. Stop right there. The figure shouted, voice booming with authority as they advanced toward us, brandishing an intimidating weapon. My heart plummeted. Run! I screamed, instinctively reaching for Mia's hand. She clutched mine, and in that moment, I felt our bond a tether connecting us against an unfathomable tide. Stay close. Derek shouted, already springing into action with Samuel and Emily right behind him. The alley became a blur of shadow and frantic movement, the chaos slicing through the air as we raced away from the encroaching threat. Yet, as we twisted around the corner, my heart sank further. The street ahead, which had once seemed like an escape route, was now alive with dark figures, forming a wall between us and the street beyond, a terrifying gridlock of circumstances closing in on our every escape. In that moment of dismay, as we huddled together, I caught sight of MIA's face illuminated by the scattered light of the street, her resolved gaze bearing into mine. And then, as if time itself was mocking us, I felt the earth shift beneath my feet, an unexpected surge of dread spilling over as a siren filled the air, one I recognized from nightmares, sending a chill up my spine that I never wanted this, I whispered, the gravity of our situation crashing down on me like waves against jagged rocks. Mia squeezed my hand tighter. We're not done fighting. Not yet. We can't give up. Derek glanced back at the figures advancing toward us, his eyes dark with both desperation and resolve. Whatever happens next, stay close, he ordered. But deep down, the fear simmered at wound around my heart like a vice, tightening around the possibility of losing my sister all over again, and suddenly the panic inside me surged with a desperate plea for hope amidst the turmoil. What twisted revelations awaited us in the depths of night? And would our combined strength be enough to face the storm that sought to tear us apart? The echo of sirens blended seamlessly into the cacophony of my surroundings, a haunting backdrop to our desperate flight. As we fled down the alley, the pulsating fear in my chest fought against the tiny flickers of hope Mia had ignited in me. I could feel her presence beside me, her determination a steadying force against the uncertainty of our path. We veered left down another narrow street, the dark sky barely illuminated by the scattered streetlights clinging to the edges of oblivion. The shadows followed us, relentless and unyielding, and I stole a glance back at Derek, whose jaw was set, eyes scanning the horizon like a soldier preparing for battle. Mia! I gasped as we skidded to a stop, breathless in the chill night air. What now? We can't keep running forever. She searched my face, the worry evident but mingled with resolve. We must find safety, all of us together. There's a place I know, it's hidden, but it might give us a moment to breathe. Her grip tightened on my hand, infectious strength flowing through our connected fingers, quelling the rising tide of despair. Behind us, the distant howls of pursuit closed in like a storm front, adding urgency to her words. If we don't stop, we'll only risk exposing ourselves more, she urged, voice steady despite the tremors of fear beneath. Before I could respond, Derek stepped closer, positioning himself protectively in front of us. Take us to this safe place, but make it quick. We're talking seconds here, he urged, his voice a low growl that pulsed with an intensity one could feel down to my bones. Mia led us down a series of twisting alleyways, off the main streets and into the quiet shadows of the old district. There, the air felt different, thick with memories and secrets long suppressed. I clung to the hope her presence ignited, yet my mind was a storm of questions. What was Mia hiding? What had she truly uncovered? The old warehouse loomed ahead, a facade of decaying bricks intersected with creeping ivy, spilling over the edges like nature was trying desperately to reclaim her territory. Here, she whispered, urgency edging her tone. As we slipped inside, the stale air enveloped us like a shroud. Dim light filtered through cracked windows, casting thin beams across a room littered with dust and debris. It felt like stepping into a tomb, a forgotten place waiting for resurrection or reckoning. Is it safe? Samuel asked, eyes darting to the corners, scanning for unseen threats. Mia nodded, though the worry etched on her face betrayed her. At least for the moment. We should be out of sight. A series of loud bangs reverberated outside, making all of us freeze in horror. They were coming for us, and the realization hit like a bullet, a stark reminder of our tenuous grip on safety. We need to barricade the door, Derek said quickly, moving toward the heavy wooden planks stacked against the wall. As we positioned them in front of the entrance, I could see the wheels turning in Mia's mind. She paced the room, eyes glimmering with intensity. I never wanted any of this, just to protect us. But now they know I'm here. I'm the target. Target or not, we'll figure this out together, I insisted, latching onto her hand once more. Tell me everything you found. It's now or never. She hesitated, biting her lip as the weight of my request hung in the air. All right. I have copies of the documents, she said, her voice trembling slightly. They detail the disappearances, Rebecca. And the people behind them they're running experiments. People are going missing to cover up something much larger. And it connects back to user family. My breath caught in my throat, a wave of nausea surging at her words. Us? What do you mean? Mom and Dad, Mia continued, her voice barely a whisper. They were involved. It's why they vanished. I've been researching. I thought perhaps I could find some answers. But I was too late. Why didn't you tell me? I gasped, the pieces of my life shattering with new revelations. I was trying to keep you safe, she replied, tears glistening in her eyes. Every time I got close to the truth, the shadows got darker. I wanted to shield you from that we should have faced it together, I said, the emotional rift between us forming like a chasm. But before I could voice my frustrations further, the heavy thud of footsteps approached, echoing ominously against the aged walls. Our collective breath caught as we exchanged looks of terror. The barricade began to shudder under the weight of the pounding outside, and panic rippled through us. Derek was already at the window, searching for an escape route while Samuel moved to huddle closely around Mia, protective instincts kicking in. We were cornered. The realization settled over me like a blanket soaked in dread, whispering a chilling before I could even scream it. We had been marked, and there was no way out. But beyond the fear, beneath the surface, a flicker of resilience sparked an ember refusing to die against the approaching darkness. Mia! I cried out, grabbing her by the shoulders. No matter what happens, we're family. We fight together. But as the door exploded inward, revealing masked figures dressed in dark uniforms, I saw the stark fear in her eyes mingle with something else, a profound sadness, as if she already sensed the potential loss of everything we had fought to protect. And then the sharp sound of a gunshot split the air, slicing through the charged tension, leaving nothing but silence in the echo that remained. Everything changed in that heartbeat. The warehouse transformed into a suffocating silence, the air heavy with the scent of fear and dread as the figures entered. I barely registered the chaos unfolding around me, my vision narrowing on Mia's ashen face. Derek surged forward, the movement instinctual, anger radiating off him in waves, yet I could feel the gravity of the moment pulling us deeper into despair. Mia! I shouted, barely above a whisper as confusion and adrenaline coursed through my veins. What do we do? Her eyes were wide, almost pleading, as if searching for a way to push the darkness away, an instinctual drive to shield us, even now. We need to stay close, she managed, though tremors of fear rippled through her voice. Before we could react, Derek clashed with the intruders, a furious dance of limbs and urgency. The world outside blurred, swallowed by the chaos brewing inside this crumbling sanctuary. A gunshot echoed again, thudding against my chest like a heartbeat, sending us reeling into a reality that was escalating into grotesque heights. Back! One of the masked figures shouted, his voice slicing through the turmoil. Another shot rang out but did not land on us. Instead, it ricocheted off a rusty beam overhead, sending dust and debris tumbling down like confetti inviting disaster. Run! Mia screamed, and that one word seemed to spark something within me, a desperate need to survive, to find a path through this nightmare still clawing for our lives that we weaved through the chaos, ducking under swings meant to tether us down. Derek's movements were fluid, instinctually fighting, but I couldn't help but wonder what lay at the mercy of these shadows, what secrets begged to be unearthed. I pulled Mia toward the back, where a grimy window promised an escape, but the world outside felt alienated, darker than the abyss we'd run from. Just outside, the alley loomed, shrouded in shadows, but it could also be our salvation. This way! Samuel urged, his voice steady amidst the tremor of uncertainty. As we reached the window, the darkness enveloped us like a thick fog, and the unforgiving surface of the glass felt unforgiving against my skin. I looked back, heart thumping wildly as Derek made his stand at the door, adrenaline-fueled bravery driving him to protect the last of our family. Mia, now. She hesitated, her heart torn between loyalty to Derek and the insatiable need to survive. In that fleeting moment, I could see the torment on her face, a silent battle raging within. I grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward freedom, but her eyes they mirrored a raw, unfiltered version of fear that cut deeper than any knife. A sudden shout ripped us back to the present. "No! We can't leave him!" Her voice, though soft, resonated with steel, thick with emotion, as her gaze remained fixed on Derek, his frame silhouetted against the disarray of our opportunity to escape. "Derek!" I shouted, despair sweetening the word. "Go!" He yelled back, voice strained but commanding. "You can't save me if you're dead." Teetering on the precipice of decision, the urgency of the situation collided with the pulse of the connection we shared. In that moment, everything hung in the balance. I felt MIA's grip slip from my hand, and panic surged like fire through my veins. "Mia, don't!" But she had already pulled away, her heart leading her back toward Derek. The weight of our past pressed against my chest, and I was powerless to stop her. Screams resonated, merging into a horrific crescendo, and I was left wondering, should I follow my sister or trust the one who was fighting for us? "Rebecca!" Derek's voice cut through the confusion, but the cacophony flared yet again, commands mixed with cries as another gunshot rang out, and all I could do was watch, frozen in terror as Mia made the decision that would forever change our lives. Then, with a clash that sent shivers spiraling down my spine, I saw Derek grapple with one of the masked figures, their fight a colossal rise and fall echoing through the smoky air, and something inside me cracked wide open. "No!" I screamed, desperate to reach them, the instinct to fight rising within me, but I felt immobilized by fear. Suddenly, the wind whistled through the warehouse, carrying whispers of memories and a plea for what once was, filling my lungs with echoes of our past. Mia turned back, her face a contorted mask of resolve, and together we surged forward, the bonds of family igniting the rage within us. But before we could reach him, we heard a different sound, the splintering of wood, followed by a chilling quiet that draped over us like a shroud. "Derek!" Mia confronted the silence, her voice trembling, and there was no answer, only the deafening ring that filled the air and pressed against my thoughts. Searching the room through a haze of grief and fear, I caught a glimpse across the shadows. A sliver of light flickered at the back, beckoning me toward the flickers of hope that still spiraled beneath the chaos. From the corner of my eye, I could see the door we hadn't taken, now slightly ajar, and the sirens outside were drawing closer. "No, no, no!" Mia cried, and my heart shattered alongside her as realization crashed against us. And just as we poised ourselves to flee, a voice familiar yet foreign came from the darkened corner with a sinister familiarity. "You walked right into our web, didn't you?" My breath seized, and dread pooled in my stomach as I recognized the figure clothed in shadows. "Welcome back, siblings. Long time no see." The voice belonged to someone I never thought we would encounter again. My heart fell as hope fled, and the darkness that surrounded us loomed larger, consuming our every sense, as the truth burst forth like a wildfire, chasing away remnants of the past but igniting horrors so much worse. The warehouse remained a cacophony of chaos, but the introduction of that voice turned the turmoil into something far more sinister. I felt my heart constrict, an ice-cold wave washing over me, while Mia stepped back, her eyes widened with disbelief and fear. "No, it can't be," but it was. Jason, my brother who had vanished without a trace years ago, stood before us, his presence a shard of the past that sliced through the thin veil of hope we had clung to. Misery and long-buried anguish surged within me, and the insanity of the night's unfolding ripped deeper into the fabric of our story. "Jason," I whispered, the sound escaping my lips like a spell, both a plea and a curse. Memories flooded back, evenings spent laughing, summer days racing to the swings, and quiet nights filled with whispered secrets. How could a sibling once so bright and warm become this harbinger of despair, lurking in the shadows, armed with intention I couldn't comprehend? "Isn't this a reunion?" he said, a smirk forming across his lips that made bile rise in my throat. "I always did enjoy family gatherings. What do you want?" I steadied my voice, despite the tremors coursing through my veins. I needed clarity, a thread to hold on to amid this landscape of torment. "I want what's mine." His words dripped with a disdainful finality. You thought you could hide from me? That you could outrun the shadows I crafted? You've been living in my world now. MIA's breath hitched beside me, and I could sense the panic leaping ever closer to a boil, a firestorm simmering under the surface. We've done nothing to you, Jason. You left us. She shouted, defiance mingling with heartbreak, and now I've come to collect what's owed, he replied coldly. His eyes glinted in the sparse light, a reminder of a person we once knew before life unraveled him into this sinister facade. The warehouse echoed with our disbelief, but as the sirens crescendoed outside, I realized time wasn't on our side. We need to go, now. I urged, darting a glance towards the ajar door. A way out was beckoning, but it was shadowed by Jason's presence. MIA's hands trembled at her sides, confusion staining her attempt to comprehend the reality laid bare before us. We're still family. She cried, desperation woven into her voice. You don't have to do this, no, he said, stepping closer, his tone cooling but still laced with that chilling smirk. But I want to see how far you're willing to go to protect each other. Think of this as a test. Test. No one asked for this. I shot back, full of anger and indignation. The walls of the warehouse felt like they were closing in, the air thick with desperation. Choose wisely, dear Rebecca, he continued, ignoring the pulse of urgency that was building around us, a storm gathering strength in our midst. You can try to run to the door, saving yourselves, or you can stay to watch how I close the chapter on Derek's little rebellion. My entire body jolted at the mention of Derek. No. I yelled, the word ripped from me like a visceral response. Time's running out, Jason teased, feigning impatience as I struggled to breathe through the weight of the choices looming before me. What will it be? Everything froze, heartbreak intertwined with fear as I glanced at Mia. Would running away, abandoning Derek, solidify our worst nightmare? Or would staying mean doom for all three of us? The specter of our brother weighed heavily upon us, and I could hardly process how someone who once shared in our collective joy could morph into this orchestrator of pain. In that moment, the door creaked further ajar with the wind's will, beckoning us toward an uncertain future. My chest ached with the realization that the number of lives in danger was growing, and each breath felt like time slipping away. Mia, I whispered, we need to make a choice now, her brow knitted with fierce consternation, worry flickering in her eyes as she read the fire igniting within me. Together. Together, I echoed, finding strength in the solidarity of our childhood. If we were going to face darkness, it would be as one. Then Jason let out a laugh. Ah, the bond of siblings. So beautiful and naive. With newfound resolve, we darted towards the exit, the words of our brother igniting a firestorm that held us steadfast. Just as we approached the threshold of the door, a gunshot rang out, slicing through the air with a chilling authority. The world froze, shock cascading through us as my heart plummeted to an abyssal depth. Mia dropped to the ground, hands clutching her chest, her eyes wide with terror. No. Mia. I screamed, my world spiraling as I turned to my brother, but Jason was already gone, slipping into the shadows, the ghost of our past leaving nothing behind but the echo of a shot that would forever haunt our present. Hope wavered like a candle in a storm, flickering desperately against the winds of fate, and now I stood in the very depths of horror as the sirens outside shrieked louder, punctuating the night with devastating urgency. As I knelt beside Mia, the world around me faded into a blur of chaos and despair, her warmth slipping away like sand through my fingers. No, 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 I cried, shaking her gently, panic flooding every inch of me as I looked desperately into her eyes, searching for any sign of light. But they were wide and terrified, reflecting the reality I refused to accept. Mia, stay with me. Please. My voice trembled, the weight of fear crushing my spirit. But the shadows thickened, heavy, suffocating as they loomed closer. I could feel the darkness surrounding us, a predatory force ready to consume not just Mia but everything we had fought to protect. My heart pounded, a frantic call for hope beneath the deluge of loss. Rebecca, she gasped, her breath shallow and shaky, a fragile whisper calling my name amid the chaos unraveling in the wake of Jason's cruelty. Promise you'll find out the truth for all of us. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I held her, heart pounding in sync with her faltering pulse. I won't let you go, I insisted, my voice cracking. We will get through this. We have to. Panic surged through me again. How could this be happening? She needed to survive. We needed each other. But her grip weakened, slipping through my fingers as darkness threatened to eclipse her spirit. No, I wailed, the sound echoing through my soul. I could feel her life fading, the bond between us unraveling like thread from a frayed tapestry. Mia. I screamed, the desperation clawing at my throat. Then something inside me ignited a fierce spark of determination that surged through my veins amid despair. I couldn't let Jason's cruelty define our story. With a rush of adrenaline driven by fear and love, I pressed my hands against her chest, focusing everything I had, willing her to fight. Stay alive. Please. Around us, the chaos of the warehouse intensified, sirens still howling, and the shadows threatening to engulf us held traces of Jason's twisted vendetta. My breath came in sharp bursts, each second stretching and distorting as I poured every ounce of my spirit into my sister. Suddenly, the door burst open, Samuel and Emily rushing in, their faces pale but resolved. We have to go. Samuel shouted, urgency etched in every line of his face. No. I can't leave her. I cried out, panic splintering my pulse. He stepped forward, eyeing Mia, who was struggling for breath. Rebecca, please. We'll lose everything if we don't move now. Time slipped through my fingers like water, but amid the turmoil, something clicked within me, a realization. Jason's sick game would consume us all unless we defied him, unless we chose to fight back together. Armed with resolve, I turned to Samuel, realizing my choice was not just about choosing to save Mia. It was about defying our shared fate. I won't let him win, I said, wiping my tears away with trembling hands, determination overtaking despair. If her life shifts within our grasp, then we pull together and fight. We are stronger together. Mia sighed softly, her breath hitching with fleeting hope, her eyes locking onto mine, unwavering. Together, she whispered again, struggling to focus. Yes. Together. I reaffirmed, igniting the flame of unity that brought us here. But we need to hurry. Emily knelt beside us, cradling Mia's head gently, the fierce protectiveness emanating from her. You have to believe, she urged, her voice a soft chorus of strength. We'll get you out of this. You have to hang on for just a little longer. With that, we lifted Mia together, her body limp but her spirit unyielding. Steeling myself, I glanced back toward the entrance as footsteps echoed ominously through the industrial space, the specter of Jason looming like a dark cloud hanging over us. Now. Samuel commanded, and we rushed toward the exit, adrenaline propelling us forward, each step pounding through the chaos, a rhythmic declaration of defiance against the shadows taunting us. As we burst outside, the cool night air hit my face, invigorating my resolve. But there was no time to rejoice, danger still lurked around us. We moved swiftly down the alley, hearts racing. Fueled by the need to escape and to unravel the darkness that threatened to swallow our lives. Mia, stay with us, I whispered as she drifted in and out of consciousness, her frail frame resting against me. We'll find safety. I promise. At that moment, the distant sirens that had haunted us began to fade, and I realized the world beyond was shifting. Our fleeting breath of hope intertwined with the need to confront our reality. We turned a corner, and for an aching moment, everything hung in balance, the shadows of our past and the flicker of a future yet to be fought for. Then, there was a glimpse of light, a simmering spark of possibility luring us forward. A community center unguarded, a haven waiting for us to reclaim our fate amidst the turmoil. We can go in there, Emily urged, pointing ahead. It might give us a moment to breathe together, Mia murmured, a fragile but resilient smile gracing her lips as we pushed forward. With renewed determination and the weight of the world pressing against us, we rushed toward the light that illuminated our path. And as we entered, I held Mia close, whispering words of encouragement that rang like a spell in the air. The shadows may cling to our footsteps, but I won't be afraid. I tightened my grip around her, a vow that our bond was more substantial than any darkness that dared to challenge it. In that instant, I understood our hearts were guiding us through a battle we would emerge from victorious. As we crossed the threshold together, each heartbeat resonated with the promise of redemption, and I knew that no matter the challenges we faced, we had the power to reclaim our lives. And as the door closed softly behind us, I took a deep breath, our predicament changing as I held Mia securely to me, her presence a reminder that the bonds of love can weave light through even the darkest shadows. Together, we would rewrite our story. Together, I whispered one last time, as the dawn began to break, a new chapter, brimming with possibilities waiting for us to embrace.